All right. Welcome to Real Talk with real stuff and real things with Realtors. This is Brandi Laffins, Kelsey Wakefield. Today we are talking about, we're actually not talking, we are reacting to a 60 minutes interview with Jerome Powell of the FOMC. He is one of the main guys and the spokesperson for what the feds are doing with the rate, which directly impacts us, right? So they pay attention to the economy as a whole, and
he's the Federal Reserve Chairman.
Federal Reserve Chairman. I should have looked that up earlier, but yes. But he's also, obviously, he does all the speaking, so he gets all the slack.
He's the head dude in charge.
Yeah, for all the things.
HDIC.
Oh, okay.
No comment.
So we're going to go ahead and we're going to play this video and do reactions throughout. Okay, ready?
Hit it.
Okay, I have a comment about that. It just goes to show that predictions are not always accurate, and they were trying to use the tools that they have to control the economy, and it didn't work at all. Like the exact opposite of what they thought would happen happened. So just thought that's interesting. So the obviously the inflation has gotten a lot better, and the rate has gone down significantly from where we were in COVID times, but the feds want it to hit 2%. We're at 3%, but they're like, nope, not good enough. Huge improvement, but we're not there yet. So they're going to keep going. And strong employment is not helping the cause for that, even though it's a good thing.
Okay, so there was a lot said there, and I'm not sure how we're going to divide this up. But anyways, it's interesting. Basically what he said is they're not going to cut rates in March the next time that they meet, but they're probably going to cut rates in May or June when they meet again, right? So what does that mean? What do you think is going to happen as soon as those rates drop? I mean, I feel like what's going to happen is prices, we're going to get a bunch of offers on the properties that we do have, and prices are going to shoot up because the interest rate dropped.
Yeah.
So it would be really smart if somebody was thinking of selling or buying. It would be really smart for a buyer to actually get into the market sooner, so they don't have to pay $50,000 over asking.
It reminds me of pre-COVID era where, before COVID hit. So like say 2019, and in Chico it's a little bit different because we did have the Paradise fire affect our market. But there's so many people who bought in 2020, late 2020, 2021, 2022 saying, I wish I would have bought before COVID. Oh my gosh, my friends bought it and they got under asking and whatever. And I think we're in that kind of a scenario again, where people are going to look back and say, oh my gosh, I wish I would have bought before rates went down, which is weird, but
I know. Yeah, no, it should be interesting. So I guess my advice or take on that is, if you are even thinking of buying, probably between now and May would be a good time,
because we have such a busy spring market every single year, and this is just going to exacerbate it. Like it's almost coming at the worst possible time to make the busy market even busier.
Well, May of 2022 was the highest point in our market.
Yeah.
So it's the when prices, and it's just because of that March, April, May, the prices just kept going and then they started to go down a little bit.
Yeah.
That probably won't happen this year. It will. They'll start to peak in May and June, July, which July is typically a slower year. So it'll be interesting. Nothing is the same. Let's see what else Mr. Powell has to say.
Okay, Jerome.
Our market was so crazy back then too.
Yeah.
That's when we had 2021, 2022 is when it went crazy. It's when those rates started to tick up.
Yeah. But then when they got high enough and affordability it was kind of shocking to buyers. And so everyone went, whoa, and stepped off for a while. And that winter was really slow.
One thing so far about this interview is it kind of made me feel like maybe this guy isn't so bad. maybe they do know what they're doing. Anyway.
Well, he's also talking in hindsight right now too. Like, well, this is what happened and this is why we did it. But maybe we could have done this. It's kind of interesting take.
Hit play.
Supply
and demand. I mean, it's sort of what happened in the housing market.
Yep. The housing market and the car market industry, like, well, even though like the car market, they both kind of did the same thing, even though it was very different. It's still, there's a shortage. Even financing a car was super cheap. you know, and then people were moving and had different reasons for wanting to buy a new car. They were getting stimulus checks. They were making the same amount of money.
They didn't want to get on public transportation because they didn't want to get COVID.
Yeah.
But ironically, they weren't on working as much at the office. So I'm not sure why that was a thing. But about the housing market was that they wanted a bigger house because now they're at home all the time with their kids.
Or they were able to work from home and wanted to move into another area. Okay, we'll keep going. Not much risk of a repeat of 2008. Just to reiterate that.
Yeah, from Jerome Powell.
From Jerome Powell himself.
Because a lot of people say that. Oh, we're going to see a repeat. Oh, the bubble's going to burst. Oh, prices are going to go down. Oh, banks are going to start closing. I mean, we did have a bank or two close, but and I think he talks about that here. Yeah,
but they weren't one of the big ones. So I guess one of them was bigger, but it wasn't like a nationwide Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo situation. Funny how that works. So middle of the year.
But they're not supposed to have any input on that.
No.
I mean, again, he was appointed by Obama, right? But made chairman by Trump and kept by Biden.
So he's quite bipartisan.
Right. Like. As he's supposed to be.
Correct. Yes.
So should not have any influence on whether the rates go up or down. Do you believe it?
I mean, almost every election year rates have gone down. So I don't know, do with that what you will.
What's that?
But one of the things that stood out to me just from like a household perspective is incomes have not gone up as much as inflation has. Like grocery bills have doubled, and just like everyday expenses, mortgages obviously are way higher. Your car, an average car, you know, is a car that used to be $30,000 is $50,000. Everything's more expensive. So of course our debt's going up. And how are people going to crawl out of their debt, or they need to lower their expenses, or they need to save more money to not have loans? I don't know.
It's just tricky. A vicious circle. Because if the cost of the supply, if you're the person that is selling the product and that cost goes up, who are you passing that on to? You're passing it on to the consumer. And then the consumer needs to have a higher wage. So then they get a raise, and then the employer has to raise the prices
of the consumer.
I mean, it just
there's no balance.
It's just like it keeps going. It keeps going. And I mean, I'm old, so to me, when I was in high school, I was making, I think, $3.10 an hour. So to me, I look at what the minimum wage is now and think, wow. I mean, I remember at one point it got up to $4.25 when we really thought we were killing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's all relative, I guess.
It is definitely relative.
Everything keeps going up.
And I don't think you've ever been able to buy a home on one person's minimum wage income. I don't know.
You could in maybe the 50s,
you think
60s.
So?
Yeah. When you had stay-at-home moms and things like that. Yeah. Even my dad now today says
because the workforce
there's no way he could afford living in today's world. Buying a home at the age of 22 for $4,500. Yeah. It was just like a whole different world.
Yeah. So. Was he making minimum wage?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was, because he was only like 20 something years old. Wasn't until he became self-employed that he could control his own destiny.
Hint, hint. So anyways, we got high debt, but it keeps going up, but that's the American way. I've been told before, debt is just part of life.
Well, and we just buy more crap than we need, quite frankly. Every single house we go into, people have so much stuff, including me. I mean, everybody does. The older you are, the more stuff you get.
Yeah.
See, I made it so you don't have to bleep out the word I really wanted to say.
We know what you mean.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's just people buy things that everybody does that we honestly do not need.
So we're looking at a rate drop in the mid-year. So like he said, May, June. It sounds probably more like May, which is exactly when our market takes off anyway. There's also another component to that, which is the spread between what the prime rate is, which is what he's talking about, is dropping the prime rate and the mortgage rate. So traditionally, there's a much smaller spread between those two than there is right now. So that's another way that mortgage rates could change, even if the prime rate doesn't change or if it changes a little, it could be different.
It was earlier in that segment. He said something about 5.5%. I'm sure a lot of people went, what? It's way higher than that. Well, it's because
that's the prime rate,
the margin that the lenders charge.
Yes. So that could change. That's larger than it's ever been. But I think that just goes with like he was saying, things don't go down in price. Like eggs aren't going to go down in price after they've gone up. They just stay there. And it's probably similar. I'm assuming is going to be similar with rates because lenders are charging more. And why would they start charging less unless it became that competitive and they needed to? But like, if we can charge it, we will.
Right. But it is competitive.
It is competitive.
Very competitive, especially with a lot of mortgage bankers out there now. It's getting very competitive. Okay, let's see what Jerome has to say. There's only a minute left in this segment.
You've watched this before, huh?
I believe him. I think he looks like an honest man.
He does, and I would like to believe him as well. We'll see. I mean, it's kind of a funny coincidence that it's just how the economy is played out. I think that is a coincidence that during an election year we're kind of seeing this happen. But
one thing that he talked about that I heard on another podcast was all of the commercial buildings that have been made available that we did not have before and what people were doing with them. Some people are turning, and this is just sort of a side note on not specific towards this interview, but they're taking commercial buildings and turning them into residential. Like that is brilliant.
And expensive.
Very expensive. And they talked about, like even the insulation, because they don't build the buildings for living quarters, but we might end up seeing some of that, which I think would be
great. Yeah, it's a good way to get some more housing without having to go through all the red tape of building a whole new building.
Building a whole new building.
You can tell.
That sounds like another podcast episode.
We'll get a builder in here.
So if you didn't get a chance to watch or see, you can YouTube Jerome Powell 60 Minutes interview. It was really great.
Yeah. Little
and
enlightening.
Insightful. Yeah. Yeah, I thought so. Okay. Is that all we got to say about that?
I think so. Thanks for watching or listening. Bye.